Okay, welcome all of you to day 3, and I hope you found the assignment both challenging and also interesting. I know that I gave some things in there that I have not taught you, but it's all part of the plan. You have to know how to do internet searches. So, in case you are looking for the Python code to do a specific thing, you should be able to say maybe Python code to do this or that. So, it was all part of the plan. I'm sorry I'm telling you now, but yeah, that was all part of the plan. I usually take 1 or 2 comments to make sure that my voice is heard before I proceed. So please, if you're around, you can just give me some comments so that I know whether you hear me or not. Okay, thank you for the confirmation. So we can now proceed. Today is day 3 of our 21 days. And so let us quickly take a look at the outline for today. The first thing on our list will be to discuss last week's assignment. 3 questions, we'll discuss all of them. Then we'll look at what is called arithmetic operators. And then we proceed further to comparison operators. We can merge the two and say operators, just that the two are separate. That is why I separated them. And then we look at the various standard output formats. Maybe not all of them, but the ones that I think you really need to know. So maybe I'll tackle some and then give the rest as assignments so that you search it out. Okay, so these are the arithmetic operators. Sorry, I didn't mean to show this one for at this time. So I'll go ahead and discuss last week's assignment. But before I do that, let me now address some of the questions that came during the registration. The registration for today's session. I usually put another field there that you can now tell me something that you think I can do, something you're expecting, something you think is not going right with the stream and all that. And so some people do feel, I encourage you, if you have a problem, you can fill that part and it is treated with a strict confidence. Today, I have one to address, and the person is concerned that since I am using PyCharm as the editor, we did a vote on the platform, and PyCharm was the selected editor. So the person is asking, since I'm using PyCharm as the main editor, what happens to those using Visual Studio Code? In the particular case where they might have issues or errors and cannot proceed during the live stream. That is a very important question. Thank you for bringing it up. Some of the common questions, let me say errors that may happen during the live stream with VS Code. So if there's an error that did not happen in mine and is occurring at your side, it is very unlikely that we are using Python. Maybe your version may be different from mine and all, but the difference is not so much to cause problems. I realized based on the questions some of you posted on the page that sometimes you forget to save your file in VS Code. For PyCharm, it does the saving for us automatically. So even if you have not pressed Control S or Command S, you can still run the file and get the current output that you desire. But for VS Code, you have to save it. There is another option for those in VS Code. So I think I will quickly bring up VS Code. Sorry, I did not mean for you to see that. This is something that I'm working on. Let me collapse everything. I was just working on it and the time for the webinar was up, so I had to stop. So you come to file here. For those using VS Code, I'm showing you how you can enable the auto save so that you don't also have to be saving your file in case you forget, you not have a problem. You come to file at the top. And then when you scroll down as part of the options that will come, there should be auto save. If this auto save is not checked, like mine for now it's not checked. If I click it, looks like nothing happened. But if I go back again, now you see there's a little check mark beside autosave, meaning that it will behave like PyCharm. Whenever I type code, especially before I run it, it will make sure that it has saved the file for me. So VS Code users, please enable this feature, the autosave, so that you don't encounter those issues. Other than that, if there is an error due to the Python code, then you should see the same error in my editor like yours. I think I should close this one. Okay. Let me bring up the first question, which is the currency converter. And please, I closed the portal for the assignment, but I opened it again. And those of you who submit it late, it will actually tell me that you did it late. I will have to penalize you for some scores. I will not mark it over 100 because I'm discussing the solution here. Yep. Okay. I don't expect you to be doing this, but if you are wondering, we call doc strings in Python. When you put three double quotes, you begin something with three double quotes and end it with three double quotes. Usually what is inside here, we use it for documenting our code. So we can, when we get to functions, I will explain better. But for now, just look at it like some form of commenting system, but it's not actually a comment. Okay. Now the program is requiring us that we ask the user to input some amount in US dollars. So I can declare a variable called amount, which will take the amount from the user. And for those of you who did some search on the internet, you found out that the raw input function returns a string. That's one I remember I told you the last time. When you put your cursor on it, it will tell you that it returns a string. I remember I mentioned this one. And so you can now say in here that maybe enter the amount in I don't really know the current exchange rate for the CD because I am in Ghana, but I think it should be, let me just guess, 12, or let me even make it 10. So exchange rate, that should be 12, 10. Let me make it 10. And it says ask the user for the input, and that is what we have done on line 11. And then store the input in a variable. That one was also done in line 11, because we are asking the input here at the right side and storing it, sorry, on the left side. And so the first two of the assignment has been catered for, or have been catered for, sorry. Now we have to convert it to our local currency. To do that, you can, there are more than one ways to go about it. In fact, you can choose to forget about the exchange rate as a variable. You can let me now take this suggestion that PyCharm is giving. It says converted amount equal to, and now you're suggesting that I multiply the amount by the exchange rate, which of course is the correct thing I want to do. And then now it says I should print out the converted amount. So I can just go ahead and say print. And I taught you that we can use commas to separate the text we use to decorate the outputs and then the particular output you want to display. So I'll go ahead also and then select this suggestion, because this is not the actual work for today. I told you that I'll not be using the autocomplete in those ones, but discussion of the assignment is not something that we should spend so much time on. So now I'll go ahead and run my code, expecting that if I put 12 here, I'll get 120. So I'll run day 3. And then enter amount in USD, and I'll put 12. And I told you that once you see exit code 0, it means we are successful. So our program is done running. But the converted amount we are seeing here is not what I was expecting. And that is because we will soon find out today that when you multiply a string, which is this amount, because the input returns a string, by a number, an integer, it will just multiply the string that number of times. So if I bring back my terminal, you see that was it in the terminal? No, not in the terminal. It was in the run console. Sorry. Terminate. So you see that it did multiply the 12, the literal 12, 10 times. And so I have to now find a way of changing this string, the output of this string, into any number format, either float or integer. And there are a lot of ways to go about it. I can now come down here and say that amount is equal to, and we call it, is it type conversion or type casting? I've forgotten the actual name, but that means that we are converting from one data type to the other. So if I just say int and then open and close brackets, I told you that whenever you see open and close brackets, then it means that we can pass in something here for the thing to work with. And this int, for now, let's look at it as a function, returns a new object. So that object is an integer because this is made to return integers. So if I pass in the amount, which is now a string from the top here, because it looks like a number, please, this one, let me emphasize it. If you type any text like hello and pass it to the integer function, it cannot convert this one for you into a number. Well, I've not really tried it before. Maybe I can try it now and see. So let me comment out everything, and then let me try it and see. That'll be int, and then I'll just say hello. Yep. So that gives us a value error, which is invalid literal. The literal is just literally the content you just placed in. So hello is a literal. So it just means that when we say literal, it just means that what you see is exactly what it is representing. So this hello is just HELLO. It doesn't mean anything like any, it's not an encrypted text that you have to decode before you understand. It's just as it is. That is what it means. That is the term literal that is used in programming. So we cannot convert it. But if I say convert and I put here 12, I'm not you see that now it prints out the 12 for me and didn't give me the value error. Sorry, I forgot to update the banner. So let me bring back my code. Now, this, I told you Python runs from top to bottom. So this amount will first be a string. Now it's converted to an integer. And then now it can multiply this. So let me run this one and see. Now enter amount in USD, and then it doesn't give me the literal 12 times 10, but it gives me the numerical 12 times 10, which gives me 120. So I know that my currency converter is working. So it's just something like this that I expected you to do. If you don't want to put this amount to in a new line, or even the exchange rate itself, you can come here and say, instead of amount times exchange rate, you can just the integer of the amount, sorry, which will convert it before it is used for the operation. Then we multiply it by 12, which is the exchange rate. Sorry, 10. This one too will work, which compresses your code to down to 3 lines. Usually, you encourage that you write less lines of code as much as possible. But in any case, too, your code should be very readable. And so you have to find a balanced ground between the two. In this case, I will not recommend this style of writing the code, because that means that if in case you use this particular constant, which is the exchange rate, for maybe 100 times in your code, if you want to change it now to 11, you have to change it at 100 places. But if you have it here as a variable, you can just change the variable and it will apply everywhere in your code. So I'll go ahead and then run the 3 again, enter the same 120 or 12, sorry, and it gives me 120 just like I saw it before. Okay, so that is it for the first assignment. So I think I'll go back to uh, maybe you want to take a shot of it, or I don't think you have to. But if you want to do so, please do it. I'll leave it on for like 5 seconds and I will clear everything. Okay, let that one go away. And the second question is a simple interest calculator. So that one too, you have to ask the user to input the principal amount, rate of interest, and time period. And then store those inputs in variables, calculate the simple interest using the formula. Oh, the formula didn't come. So this is our formula. Please note display set variables. I know some of you already have knowledge of Python, so you are coming in to top up from somewhere or just for the certificate, which is all fine. But these were the instructions for the assignment. There's a way to take all three inputs on one line. And when we get to that place where I think you have an understanding of that, if I don't bring this concept in again, remind me, I'll do that. So now you have to now take an input for the principal. Okay. Input, and then we can now say enter the principal. I'll take this one too. And then I can duplicate this line 2 more times. This one will be rate. If you are wondering how I'm duplicating the line, it's Command D for Mac OS and Control D for Windows. And this one is time. Okay. But we know that these ones will return strings. How do we then convert them? Because once we want to convert them to floats or integers, it will be more lines of code. It turns out that we can wrap this whole input in that conversion that we want to do. So in this case, I'll choose a float because the principal can be maybe 10.5. Currency can have decimal numbers. And then the rate too can have decimal numbers. So I'll convert it to floats. And then the time, that one too can have decimal numbers. So because it can be 1.5 years. And that one too should be a float. This one, I told you the other time that Python evaluates it from the inside out. So first take this input and then it will pass it to float. So it will just be like saying float and then whatever the value of principal was. So inside the mind of Python, when it is running it, it will first get the principal like this and then cast it to float. So that is what this line will be doing. Nothing new. And now our simple interest formula was there. So I can just say simple interest, and that should be equal to principal times rate times time all over 100. And if you have done any kind of business math, I think this should be familiar with you. The reason I put these ones in brackets is that it is a fraction and all of these are on top. If I don't bring the brackets here, it will use that mathematical rule to evaluate the expression where division might come before multiplication or multiplication before division. And so if we put all of this in brackets, it will always evaluate those in brackets first before proceeding to the outside. So now I can print my simple interest also. So print, and I can say the simple interest is, and then I can accept this that Python is giving me. Sorry, I chose debug. Let me stop it. I just enter some random values, so maybe 4,500. Oh, sorry, that was 45,000. Oh, okay, okay, that is good. That is good. So one very bad practice in programming is what I did. And so this is the time I would take it to be 2.5 years. And this is my simple interest. But you see here that it's also in enter principal. And that is the disadvantage of copying and pasting. So as much as you can, please, as a developer, don't do copy and paste. Just type everything out. It really causes me trouble a lot of times, but I also almost always stubborn to use copy and paste. So this is also the proposed solution for the second question. I have one comment. Let me see. When do we use floats? Is it wrong if I didn't include floats? Well, you will not be wrong. In fact, when we are dealing with errors, I will explain that particular one. Assuming I use int for each of them, And then let me go to the debug console. Let me copy the values here. Everything inside here so that we'll compare the output of the two. Because when I run it again, it will override that one. Okay, so just look at the output of the first one. Now they are all int, and I'll run it again. Let me copy the old value. So 45000, 12.5. And then what is it saying? It says invalid literal for int with base 10. Okay. Okay. I wanted to show you something, but because it is coming from a string and not a float, it will not do it that way for me. But if you let me undo a couple of times. If I comment out all of this, and then for instance, the print, and then the integer of float, no, if I do that way, it might confuse people. Let me put the float at the top. So value equal to, and then float of, I don't even have to say float, 12.54. Now let me print integer of value. Please, your screen is far away from mine. I don't really think I get what you are trying to say. Is it that the text is small? Because this is the maximum zoom I have been using for all the sessions. Or you're talking about my face, that is my picture, the one at the left side. I don't really get what you are trying to say. If you can come again, that will help. So if I now print the value here, you see that I only got 12. It only gave me 12, even though the value up here is 12.54, but it only gave me 12. So the disadvantage of using int for such use cases is that if the user types a value like this and you choose to convert it to an integer, it will throw away the decimal parts. And if you are developing such an application for a finance institution, it really costs them a lot. So for values that like these, you know that they can have floats, just convert it to float and not integer. And then the last one, I think you can use the principle for the first two for the last time, because it looks like this one, you just have to accept some two values there. I think the weight and the height, and then there's a formula for calculating the BMI. So let me just forget about that one. The principle is the same. If it were different, I would have gone through that one too. Now we are looking at what we call the operators today. And you've already used them in the work that you did, but we'll quickly go through them also. So what we are looking at now is the arithmetic operators. In programming, we use the plus for addition, but in terms of what we call strings, we also use it for what we call concatenation. So this plus here can be used for addition, that is for numbers, and for concatenation, which is just a technical term, which means that adding one or more strings together. There's also the subtraction for numerical operations, and we use the asterisk, sorry for the symbol, this because of the font I used, that is why it is giving me this particular symbol for the asterisk. But the division, we use the backslash, and then the modulus, which is also a mathematical operation that only I think gives you, does it give you the reminder, or it gives you the whole number part? I've really forgotten about that one, but that's for the modulus also. I think it does gives you the reminder, because maybe if I say 10 mod 3, that should give me 1, because that's the reminder after 3 goes into 10 3 times. Yeah, so it does gives you the reminder of the division. And then the double asterisk is also for exponentiation. So if I want to say 2 to the power 5, I'll just say 2 star star 5, and Python will understand. Okay, so let's get back into code quickly and see how these things work. Okay, so I'll just give a comment here, or even a doc string, and say arithmetic operators. Python is saying that, oh yes, there's a mistake. That is true. So I'll go ahead and then define two variables, which I'll call maybe first, and then one called second. The second, I'll give it a random value. I think this is too large. So 8 here, and then let's pick a number that will make the thing easier. And then maybe 7 also here, or even 2. Now, I can also declare another one called results. So Python is suggesting, but I promise that I will not be using it, so I will not use it. For the addition operator, which is the plus, we can easily now say first plus second. And then if I print out this to the terminal, sorry, and then I can say the result is, and then I can say result here. I get here that the result is 10. Okay, that is great. And if I try the multiplication, the subtraction also, and I run it again, I get here that it is -6, which is true because 8 is bigger than 2. So the subtraction, because 8 is at the far side, that means that it should be a negative result. That is why we are seeing that. And then if I try the multiplication, which is an asterisk, if you are looking for where it is, if you are on an alphanumeric keyboard, which means that some of the keyboards have a number pad to the right, I think the asterisk is just there. You can just click on it. If you are also using one that does not have the alphanumeric combination or the layout, you can press Shift and then the number 8 on your keyboard, and that should also give it to you. So the Shift and the 8 at the top there should give you the asterisk, which, if everything is correct, should give us 16. So it is correct. It does gives us 16. And these ones also work for floats also. So if I just say 2.5, all the operators will work. So whatever the value is, it will give it to me. Okay. And you realize that the output was a float because one of them is a float. And then the exponent also. So if I do double asterisk, that is 2 to the power 8. I think that should be 2554, 256 here. So that is 256. That is also an exponentiation. But I think there is also another way to define exponents in Python. I've at least used it for, in some use cases, you can just say 2e8 and Python will understand. I don't know whether it will work for this case. So we just say 2e8, where the e means exponents, and then this is the value that should be raised to. So let me just try it and see whether it will work. Okay. I think there's a difference between the two. Yes, there's a difference between the two. It did work, but the value it is giving us, I think it is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, just adding the 8 zeros to it. Yeah. I've used it in some cases before, but I've forgotten how I made it work that way. Okay. And there was also the modulus, but for the modulus, I have to now make this one, let me say 10. And then this one, say, if I make it 2, the output will be 0. But if I make it 3, I should get 1. And then the percentage is also shift and 5. That should work for you. And then the result is 1. And that is because if you don't understand modulus, it just takes the number here and then tries to divide the numerator, in our case, by the denominator. So the number at the top is divided by the number at the bottom. As long as it can just go in and subtract it, it keeps dividing like that until it gets a value that it cannot divide again. So 3 now goes in and finds out that it can now go in, and then we'll be left with 7. Then it will come again, try the division, now realize that, okay, we can get another one, another 3 inside. That will come to 4. Then it will come again, go in, okay, we can get another 3 inside 4. So it will now be left with 1. Then it will go again and say, no, now we are only left with 1. And then it cannot be a perfect division. So it will return that particular value for you. So that is what the modulus does. And then there was the division. The division, let me change this one to 2. 2 and 10 are both whole numbers. They are integers. So ideally, they should return 5 for us, which is an integer or a whole number also. Because usually when you punch it on your calculator, that is what you get. But this will show us something a little bit different. You see that the 5 is not just ordinary 5, it's 5.0, which makes it a float, not an integer. So take note that the output of the division operation on numbers is always a float. Whether any of the numbers is a float or not, it will still return a float to you. So if I put 10.6, which should give us 5.3, it is a float because one of them is a float. But even if it was not a float, you still saw that it will give us 5.0. So take note of that in case you are writing any program and you have to avoid floats, but you still have to do divisions. Be sure to do the type conversion. Okay. These ones usually work on numbers because if you say arithmetic, we are working with numbers. But if I go ahead and then change this one to, say, hello, and then change this one to O. Let us first try the addition operation, which I told you that it can be used for what we call string concatenation, which is the technical term for adding 2 strings or 2 or more strings together, or 2 strings. Let's take it that way. So if I run this one now, I see hello, which is the first one, plus another O, which is coming from our second variable. And so you can use it to add strings together. So if I just want to make it like a sentence form, I can just say hello everyone. And then intentionally leave a space here. Now if I run, it will add hello and everyone together for me. Okay. let us now look at the subtraction, whether it will also work on strings. So what I'm saying is that it should do that. And immediately PyCharm is even telling me that there is a problem. When I zoom in on it, it says the class, which I say look at it like the type now, of string does not define subtraction. Look at it as a subtraction. So the minus operator cannot be used on its instances. If I say an instance of a string, I'm just trying to say that a variable, just take it for now, let's take it like a variable which is of type string. When you get to classes, you understand instances better. But for now, take it as a variable whose type is string. So it's saying that the minus operator cannot be used on a string. So let us not be stubborn enough to run it. And let's just try the multiplication also. And then it's also give another error saying that unexpected type S, or okay, it's trying to say types or type. But the type it is saying that was used, which is unexpected, is an str, a string. And it is intelligently giving us the possible types that it supports, which for now is not something that will really help us. And so at least we know for now that it is a string and it is not supported. But if it were a number, this one will not be here. So if I change this one to maybe 3, see that error doesn't come again. So that is PyCharm's own way of telling us that, hey, before you run your code, just know that the multiplication operation, for it to work, one of the operands or the things that are being operated on, the operands should be a number. One of them, at least, should be a number. And so that one too doesn't work. And the modulus and co, we can easily forget about them because we know that this one too will not work. It gives us an error. It tells us that this operator cannot be used on string instances. So that is it for the arithmetic operators. Okay, there are no questions in the comments, which is good. So that is it for the arithmetic operators. And so let us look at the other operators also, which I call the comparison operators. Those ones too are here. We use them in our code to compare values. And their output is always a Boolean. So if we're wondering when we're doing Booleans, so what is, like if I know that a Boolean is a data type, what will I use it for? I mean, these are the instances where the data types become meaningful and useful. So the output of these, all of these operations, their output is a Boolean. So you are finding out whether something is equal, whether something is not equal, greater than, less than. And in programming, we use the exclamation, is it exclamation mark? Yes, I think I've gotten it right. This is the exclamation mark. We use that one for not. So wherever we want to use the letter or just this literal not is what I'm talking about. The word not is depicted by this symbol. So equal to, we use the equal sign, the single equal sign, to assign values to variables. It is for assignment. And the double equal sign, that is for comparison. So if I type a single equal sign like this, that one will be for just assignment. So I can now say that maybe value equal to maybe 12. When I do it this way, I am only assigning the value 12. But if I go ahead and now say that, say, value equal to 12, then it means I'm asking Python whether whatever the value of this value is, let's suppose it is 10. Whatever the value of the value is it equal to 12? And so we'll find out how those ones work in code very soon. And then also there is the greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, which all have their usual mathematical meanings. So let us see how they work in code. Like I will have to change this place to comparison. Our first and second remain the same, but okay, the result is what we'll modify. We will modify. I think we can just leave everything like this. After all, we'll just be changing this operator. So let us check the first one, which is double equal to. I know we have gotten to a place where it looks a little confusing. Now, I have an equal sign here. I have an equal sign here. Oh, I didn't draw it well. Give me, have an equal sign here. And then I have two more here. What are they doing? Well, Python runs from the right to the left. So what to do is that in the case where we declare variables, let me state it that way. So it will evaluate what is on the left here of the first equal of this equal sign here. So it will just evaluate it, and then it will evaluate this part, which is the right side, and then assign the value to this result here. And so it shouldn't confuse you. This first equal sign here is just to say that, okay, we are declaring a variable called results, and the value should be the evaluation of this thing at the right hand side. And for what is at the right hand side, we are just trying to compare whether these two values, which is first and second, are exactly the same. So let us run it and see. It says the result is false. I told you that the output of the comparison operators is always a Boolean. So it says now that the result is false. Let us, because hello and hello are not the same. So let us now change this one to not equal to and see. And it tells us true, which is true because, sorry, I forgot to change the banner, because first and second are not the same, they are not equal. In fact, even if I type hello like this, the two are not the same. And if I run, I should get true because they are not the same. Unless I change this one to a capital H. And then in that case, I'll get false because I'm asking, are they not equal? I'm saying they are not equal, but they are equal. So if I change this one also to an equal sign, now it becomes true because the two are equal. Okay. This one, let me use this scenario to explain a very common principle that, a common thing that probably has happened to most of you, myself inclusive, so most of us. When you are typing your password or your username, sometimes you say, I've typed the correct thing. Why is this thing not working? Now I leave a space here at the end. If I print this first to the terminal, you will not see the space because the computer is not really made to display the space. So it's just should I say an empty or void or something. But because it is inside the two strings, we see it. If I print it to the terminal now, you will not see this space. It is there, but you don't see it. So when we try to make the comparison, the space is actually a character in the computer's memory. And so it comes out as false. In fact, there is this thing called the ASCII table. ASCII. I think it's American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Let me bring up my browser quickly and then let's search for ASCII. One minute, coming. Okay, so this is my browser. Let's just search for the ASCII table. So I'm just searching for ASCII table. I didn't expect it to be this slow. So it tells us here that it stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. I think. Wow, I still remember it. And computers, let me link this one, or I'll send it to, or you can just search for it yourself. It says here that computers, let me zoom into the text rather. Oh, wow. I think I went too much. Forgive me. I don't know whether you can read the text. That is what I'm trying to achieve by zooming in. Computers can only understand numbers. So an ASCII code is the numerical representation of each of a character, such as A or art or an action of some sort. ASCII was developed a long time ago, and now the non-printing characters are rarely used in their original purpose. I don't even understand what that is trying to say. But if I think this one should take me to the ASCII table, that is what I'm looking for. Pardon my internet. This is it. So let me try and zoom in. You see here the null character. I think that should be the space. I'm not really sure, but every number or every alphabet, has its representation here. So let me see. Where is the lowercase y? You can go through this table. In fact, let me link it in the chat for you. So you can go through the table and then see how your computer sees the values you type on the screen. Okay, finally in the chat. So the capital letter A is represented by the value 65 in the computer's memory. And I told you in the beginning that computers operate in binary. So if you type A, I'm just trying to make things simpler here, but it looks like it's not working. If you type A and send it to me, what will be detected in the computer as an ASCII value is 65. And this is the binary representation. I'm very sure. Yeah, the binary representation. So you will type A, but this is what the computer sees. So what the programming languages are doing is translating our literal characters like A into values like this in the computer's memory. So if just A translates to this, you can imagine what a full paragraph of text or even a whole book will translate to. The languages are really doing it, and the computers too. So let's come back to item. And so that is why this and this are not the same, because when it combines the ASCII values or converts them to binary, one of it will have the ASCII value or the binary representation of the space character, and then this one will not have it. So that is what sometimes happens, but most of the platforms have been trained to strip off white spaces. So if you leave it at the beginning or at the end, you are safe, but if you mistakenly type it in the middle, that one, it cannot be. Usually it's taken as part of it. And so we know about the equal to and not equal to, and they apply to numbers also. So if I check in here 12 and 12, I get the result to be true. Let me see 12.0. I also get the result to be true. I know you may think this sounds a little weird because this is a float and this is an integer. Yeah, but I don't really know how this operator works. So you can note this in mind in case you are building an application that is comparing numbers and there are straight floats and integers. You know how to go about it, either to convert one to the other to be safe or to leave it like this and then catch all the errors that will come with it. Okay, there was also the greater than, less than, which all work in their mathematical sense. So I'm checking whether this 12 is greater than 12. And it is false because it is not greater than 12. But if I change it to 13, I should see that. Which one? Yes, because this one is smaller. No, this one is the largest. Forgive me because this symbol mostly, usually it confuses me. So what I do is that I look at the side that is opened. So this side, I take it as the bigger part here. So now what it means in my mind is that second here, which is 12, is bigger than 13. Which is 13, but that is not true. That is why it gave false. That is how I keep this in my mind. Forgive me for that part. But if I turn the symbol, that is also to say now that the bigger side should be first, which is 13, which I believe should return true. Yeah, it did return true. Okay. There was another one. The greater than or equal to. What this one will do is that if now that 13 is greater than 12, it will give us true. If it is 12 also, it will give us true because these are two conditions which are being checked here. It should either be greater than or equal to 8. But as soon as it comes down to 11, the condition turns false because this 11 is not greater than or equal to second. Let's try 11.99. It is still false. Let's add one more 9. And it is still false. But I think at a point, this one will round up to be true. It's still false. But if you can keep on adding the 9s, at a point, it will round up to be true. So if you are building applications, also be sure to check that part because at a point, it will round the value up. And then the opposite side also works, which is the I don't really know how to name the symbol, but this should be less than or equal to. It depends on which side of the variable you are standing. If you are standing here, I think you can say less than or equal to. If you are standing here, you can say greater than or equal to. That is why I sometimes get confused which of the symbols is greater than and which is less than. But I believe you understand what I'm trying to do here. Forgive that side of my mathematics. So let me run this one too and see. And I got the true value that I was expecting because this 11 is less than the second, which is 12. If I make them the same, I know you guess that should be true. But as soon as this one becomes 13, the value should now turn to false because this is not less than or equal to 12. And that is why it's happening like that. Okay. Okay. There are no questions in the comments. That is a good thing because these things usually are not difficult to understand. Because if you have any mathematics background, this one should be just so easy for you to grasp. And so let's look at our standard output. What format? When I say standard output, I'm referring to all the ways that we can give show values in our terminal like we have been doing with the print statement. In fact, we have already seen how we can do some of it. So I'll declare three variables here. So person, and then gender. I can also say height or something like that. Okay, so this person's name will be myself. So I'll put Tommy there. The gender identify as a male, and then the height should be around 1.69 centimeters. I want to output all of these information to the terminal in the form of one sentence. But looking at what we have been doing with the print statements up to now, it looks like we can only give just one of these variables. But today we will look at many ways to do that. The first way, which I don't really know the name, is that I can use that comma separation to do that. So my name is, and then I'll add person. I think it should actually really be name here. Then I bring another comma. My next sentence will follow. It is trying to get it for me, but I promised you I will not do that. So, and I then I'll put gender here, another comma, and then I can now say, and I am another comma, height, another comma, and I put cm tall. Should be a way for me to be able to wrap this line. Other than that, I may have to zoom out a bit. I just hope you can see. So it looks a little cryptic, but we are trying to put all of these in one sentence. We have more than one variable. So my name is, and then after here it will pause and bring our name here. So whatever the value of name is, which is Tommy, will be inserted here. So if I should replicate exactly what this thing will do, I can just say here that my name is, and then after here it will find out what the value of this name is, and then it will insert it, which is Tommy, and then it will continue with this sentence here. And I am a, and then it finds out that there's another variable it has to plug in. So it will go and look for the gender, the value of gender, which is male. And then it continues. And I am, and then it finds out that there's another place where he has to go and look for the value, the variable here. So I am a, then it will pause, go and look for the value of height, which is 1.69. And then it will continue the rest of the statement, which says cm. So that is what it will do during the execution of the code. So just run up to where the string is, the literal string is, which I explained the meaning, literal. And then it will plug in the variable, continue with the literal, plug in the variable, continue the literal, plug in the variable, as long as you want it to do. So I will comment out this one. And why is it underlying these things? Let me delete it before it throws an error. When I run this now, I should see the sentence that I typed at the top here. Okay, I see some double spacing because I told you the other time that whenever I bring a comma, it will automatically insert a space. So that is what is happening. But I believe you get the idea of this type of outputting values or results to the terminal. It just goes, plug in, goes and plugs in. This is one method I want to show you. Another method is to use string concatenation. So I can change this commas to plus, every comma here to plus, which means that take the literal value here, add it to whatever this is. Take the literal value here, add it to this, add it to that, add it to that. So this one too should run. I'll only get a few errors. Let me reformat the file. A few errors which are not Python dependent errors. It is because of how my code is. Now I see my name is, and then there's no space between Tommy and. That is because, unlike the comma that will separate them for me or give spaces, this place, there is no space between the opening quotes and. So it will not work. I have to intentionally put a space there. And another one is here, mail. And then the CM, I think it can remain as it is. So if I now run it again, it comes out as a correct sentence. I know you are already realizing how tedious and confusing this particular styling is. It can easily confuse you. You can mess up something somewhere, because even as I look at it now, it doesn't look very nice to me. I don't use this style at all. There is also another one where we plug in. So for now, let me undo for a couple of times. But let me even clear everything here. Come to print console, then paste it in. And then instead of putting the actual values here, you can put these placeholders here. So this, and the next place was this place. That is, I don't really remember the name, but it's a curly brackets or something like that. It's not the square brackets, the ones that are styled. And then there was another place here too. You can put these values wherever you want the actual value to be. And you can look at them as placeholders. Usually people put numbers in the just to keep track, but Python, I think it will be fine. And then after you have done it this way, you now come and say dot format. And then inside the format, you pass in the actual values in the order of their occurrence. So in this case, I can put name here because name is supposed to be here, the first one. And then I can come and put gender followed by height. Look at the order. That is exactly the order I want them to appear. So when I run it, I see that they have been printed here for me in the order I wanted them to appear. So if you think this is also another cool way of doing it, you can try it that way. I'm just trying to put the code on separate lines so that I can zoom in more. If you think this is a cool way of doing it, you can also do it this way. This is the third method that I've actually shown you this evening. And then the last one I'll do, which is also my favorite, the one I use all the time, in fact, all the time, was introduced in Python 3, which is called the F string. I think, let me type the name here. F string. Let me just put a hyphen in here, F string. Like this, F string. And that is what I find by far the easiest. If you want to convert anything to an F string, you put a lowercase f in front or just before the first opening quote, lowercase f, not the uppercase. And you see immediately that once I did that, the curly brackets inside they have changed, and then now they are showing that I have some error here. And then inside here, I just plug in whatever I want to put at that particular place. So here I just put in the variable name, the variable name, gender, and then the variable name, height. Just as easy as this. So this one, I find it the most convenient, clean among all of them, which should not give you any confusion whatsoever. And it just returns it as we want it to. And the advantage with this format is that if I change this to be a number and I run it, it will on the fly convert this to a string and then add it to it. But let me go back to the previous methods quickly. Let me start with the dot format and then convert this one to a float, which is a number. Let me try and run it. I don't know whether okay, this one too did work. Let's try the others and see. Okay, this particular style, the one that uses the commas. Let us try and see. Okay, that one too is able to convert it. I think there was a trouble somewhere when you wanted to convert the number formats, but if it does it for all of them, then it is great. But one advantage with the F string also is that you can actually put logic inside the bracket. So if, let me come here and copy this again. And then instead of the raw height here, let me change it to a number. I can say I am height times 4 centimeters tall. And then it will evaluate this on the fly and insert it as a string. We all know that this is an integer and this is logic, or we can look at it as code, but it will evaluate it and then give it to me. So you see that it actually did the evaluation and gave me the output also. So it depends on you which one you want to use, but I always, like always, use the F string because I find it to be the most convenient, easiest, and cleanest among all of them. I don't have to give any weird format here, keeping track of the number of variables and all that. I just plug it in straight up and then I go my way. I can actually put logic here. If we have done logic like decision making, you could have seen that we could have put something here that is even more complex than this, and it would have been evaluated. Okay. Let me check. There are no questions at this point also, which is a good impression. If there are questions, it was good. If there are no questions to it, is good. That means you understand what is being done today. Today, actually, is not really something very difficult. We are still getting ourselves familiar with the basic things before we jump into some complex stuff. So that is the end of what we want to do for today. I will, like always, give like 1 minute, and then if there are any questions I have to answer during this live session, I do. Other than that, we will close chapter on it for today. Okay, so there are no questions, I suppose. Let me thank you for your time today, and I'll I'll try and give some trial assignments so that you practice your hands on all the comparison operators and then the standard output formats also. You can choose between any of them, or you can work with all of them too, whichever one you are familiar with and whichever one doesn't confuse you. That being said, thank you for your presence here. It has been a wonderful session as usual, and I will see you tomorrow for the next session, which is day 4. If you have a problem, you can put it on the WhatsApp page, or if you think you have to give it to me directly also, you can do so, and I will address it for you. Bye for now.